Hello friends! It's Meghann Andrew here from Scrapbook and Cards Today magazine, and I am so excited that you're joining us at the 3:30 p.m. Eastern Hour on World Card Making Day. I am so excited to be sharing my favorite technique with you, which is pattern building on my cards. Today I'm going to be using the SCT Signature Collection Quatrefoil Pattern Builder, and that is a special set of stencils, stamp, and a die. And I'm also using Concord and 9th inks to create my card. I hope you love what I create and you will give it a try on your own. Be sure to check out the blog post during this hour after you watch my video to find the giveaway for this hour. And I hope you have a wonderful World Card Making Day.
So take a look, friends, at the Quatrefoil Pattern Builder set. You get a stencil, a stamp, and a word die with shadow. So the stencil has lots of different shapes on it that you can accent with the stamp or use the two of them separately to create an entire range of different shapes to build patterns on your background. Then you also have that special die with the shadow that I'm going to be using today. I'm especially excited to be creating with this bundle today because I had a hand in creating it for one of our Crop and Create delivered card making events with Lisa Hetrick. So it was such a fun collaboration with Lisa to bring this set to life. So I'm going to start out with the stencil, and I really love the Quatrefoil solid pattern because you can start out with a solid color and then build up from there. And you can see I'm placing my stencil off of the edge of my A2 size piece of cardstock. Now A2 is 4¼ by 5½, and it's nice smooth cardstock. It's actually our SCT Signature cardstock, which I love. And I'm using all Concord and 9th inks today. I'm starting out with spiced cider, and you can see here that I am inking off first, getting some of that ink off of my brush and then putting it on my paper so it's not too dark. It's really, really easy to line up this quatrefoil to create a pattern. You just kind of center the next row of quatrefoils in the middle of your first row and go from there. I absolutely love quatrefoils. They remind me of tile, like a Moroccan tile, and I think that they're very, very classy. And that's why I wanted to add this pattern to a set that you could really get creative with. And there are so many different shapes you can incorporate here, and you'll see me just kind of add on to this as we continue with this card. So just starting out with spiced cider for all of my quatrefoils. Now you will see me cut down this card later, and I do think it's important to think that through, that if you mess up a little bit, you can always cut it down. So it's always important to make sure you're not going to get any smudges. So you can see that I used some alcohol and a wipe there to make sure that all of the spice cider was gone from my background. I really, really love the color combination that I'm using today because it's kind of a modern take on fall. Now I'm going to fig here, and you might be a little concerned that I'm going to purple over this orange, that it might turn brown, but I tested it and it absolutely doesn't. So this just goes to show you that you should always test things out if you're unsure. So it just makes the fig color a little bit darker, and I absolutely love fig. I am not much of a bluish purple person. I really love those nice warm purples. So let me know in the comments if you're the same, if you love a certain type of purple. But I really think that with the orange, that warmer purple just really goes so beautifully. Now what I'm adding here is this cross design in the center of each quatrefoil, and it really only takes a second. The great thing about this set is that you can make it as easy of a background pattern or as complicated as you want. You can literally stencil the quatrefoil, stamp an outline, and go from there, or you can keep building on your pattern. So I am pulling back my tape there because the fig is so dark, it's covering up that edge of my tape, and I'm pulling back my tape to be sure that I have that centered. It's really, really simple to see the center point in these quatrefoils. You just kind of line up the point on the center of all of those round sections on the quatrefoil, and it turns out just beautiful every time. So I'm almost done with my fig cross centers. You can see there that I didn't use much ink at all. And today I am using my Gina K Designs blending brushes. I really love the way that those blend onto this really smooth cardstock that we have here at Scrapbook and Cards Today magazine. And then I'm just going to clean off my stencil again and my work surface. I'm also using the ink stand, which I really love to use when I am blending. It makes it so that I don't have to hold that ink pad, which could result in smudges on my fingers, which also go onto the paper. Smudges are our worst enemy when we're ink blending. Now I'm using cayenne here to add a little detail on the corners of those quatrefoils. And this is kind of a darker version of that spice cider, a little bit more red. And I just love the way that those three colors play together. You can see there that I'm also taping off my stencil using my mint tape from scrapbook.com. And that's because there's another shape that's close enough that I want to make sure that I do not blend. So that's one of my biggest tips is even if you think, oh, it's too far away, I won't blend it. Trust me, cover it up with tape. You'll be glad that you did. I have to say that when I was preparing for this card, I tried different color combinations, and you don't really know what they're going to be like in a set like this until you just give them a try. Just try out one quatrefoil and whatever additional stamps and shapes you want to add on top of that, just to see what you think, because you may be surprised. In this color combination, I definitely was surprised that they all worked together so beautifully. So I'm just finishing up here with the last quatrefoil using cayenne. I'm also using a Brutus Monroe stick and stamp mat, and I really love to use that because not only does it hold my A2 paper so well, it also holds the edge of the stencil so that I don't have to worry too much about it moving while I'm blending. Okay, so my quatrefoil shapes are done. There is more that I can definitely add to that. So if you wanted to stop here, you certainly could. But I kind of want to get an idea of where I'm going to be placing my sentiment, what I'm going to be adding on here, and I want to add some of the stamped designs. I feel like that these quatrefoils need a little bit of a border to really make them stand out against that white background. I really love a white background when I create because I feel like the pops of color against that white background just really work together. But I want to add a nice dark border to each of these quatrefoils. So I'm going to grab Midnight from Concord and Ninth, which is a nice dark blue, and I'm going to use that outline stamp. It's really, really easy when you're using a stamping platform like a Misty to be able to see where you are stamping around those quatrefoils, and as long as you take your time in placing it, you are going to get a beautiful border result. I'm also using my new Rose Quartz Misty from scrapbook.com, which I just love, and the matching Stampendable from LDRS Creative that is also in Rose Quartz that you can get at scrapbook.com. Now remember, all of the products that I'm using today will be linked in this hour's blog post on the Scrapbook and Cards Today blog, which you could find in the link in the video details below. So don't worry if you can't write it down fast enough. It's all there for you and linked for you guys to find that. So now this is going to be kind of the longest part because I really want to make sure that I get that stamp lined up just right before I stamp each of these quatrefoil outlines. And I'm also using a cube instead of a full-sized ink pad, so I want to make sure that I get that coverage really well. So I'm actually stamping 2 times. One of the biggest mistakes that I find that I make is not cleaning off my stamp well enough so that when I go to stamp again the next time I put my stamp down, you'll see a tiny little bit of, a shadow line there. So not only am I cleaning it with my Gina K Designs Tidy Towel, I'm also using my chamois to wipe it off after I clean it with my Tidy Towel too, because I want to make sure there's nothing left behind when I move that stamp. So nearly there. What I love about this pattern building is just the repetition of, repeating with the same shape over and over again until you build the amount of pattern you want. And the greatest thing is that you don't have to fill an entire A2 size card panel to make it look really special. Like here, I kind of faded off, went in a sort of diagonal pattern here because I wanted to leave that nice white space there for my sentiment. So don't feel like you have to cover the entire A2 size card panel to make this a stunning card. Now I'm going in with Midnight and the last border, and I'm going to stamp that 2 times. And I'm actually relieved that no smudges, nothing has been stamped out of place so far. But if that does happen with you, it's totally normal. It happens from time to time, and we can always find creative ways to embellish over our boo-boos. I love ink blending so much, you guys. It is, one of the techniques that makes you look like an expert. And I love coordinating stamps and stencils and dies. I just think it is the greatest thing about card making right now. So I'm going back to the stencil and I'm just seeing here what I can add in between these quatrefoils that will look really stunning. There's little circles on my stencil, and I think it would be really, really cool to add these circles in between my quatrefoils, like 2 on each of the edges there. And so I'm going to go in with honeysuckle, which I think is a really lovely kind of yellow. It's like a muted yellow color, and it's going to really round out this color scheme so beautifully. So I'm going to grab this and just tap off. It really takes barely any time at all, and I realized that I wanted to use my smaller blending tool because that big one was really putting too much ink down on the paper. So after doing the first one and realizing that I really like the way that looked, we're going to keep going with those honeysuckle dots. In the stamp, there's also a lot of different shapes that you can use to overlap your quatrefoils so that they could kind of connect the quatrefoils. And really, this set was all inspired by tile and handmade tile at that. So when you look at an image of, handmade tile online, you'll see that it's absolutely not perfect because it's made by hand, just like our cards. And so I find that this set gives me a little bit more leeway to make something that's beautiful, but not absolutely perfect. So I'm just deciding here if I'm going to add some circles around the outer edge there, and I'm going for it. And I think I have one more to do. Yeah, right there along that edge. So just a tiny touch of honeysuckle, and you can see my hands there. They are completely covered, mostly by midnight there. And I think it's also time to retire my mint tape. That stuff will last a long time, but once I have a dark color on it, I like to throw it away just in case I get smudges anywhere. I'm also going to put some alcohol on my fingers to try to clean those up. Now, one thing I like to do is add some embossing on top of this so that some of these elements have a little bit of a shine. So I used my Tailored Expressions powder tool brush there, and I'm going in with the dot from the stamp set, and I am dotting the centers of those crosses. Now I'm doing two at a time, and I'm also using my Brutus Monroe embossing powder, and this is in gilded, and it's absolutely such a gorgeous gold. So I'm doing two at a time, stamping two at a time using my Ranger embossing ink. Then I'm going in and doing two more before I powder those up. I just want to make sure that everything stays nice and juicy so that I can get the powder on. If there's any powder out of place, and the powder tool helps that to not happen, but if there's anything out of place, you can take a small brush and dust off any powder bits there before you heat set. So I'm just grabbing my heat gun, and I'm also using one of my favorite little simple gadgets from my local office supply store, which is a tiny clipboard. And that's what I like to use to hold my A2 card panels down when I heat emboss them. So it saves my fingers, and I find that it's just a really easy and inexpensive way to hold that down. So I have that beautiful gold shine in the center of each of my quatrefoils now. Now it's time to layer up a few panels. So I started out with my fig in an A2 size, that's 4¼ by 5½ at the bottom. Then I cut a gold piece to 4 by 5¼ and that's Spellbinder's gold cardstock, and it's beautiful and it'll look perfect with my card panel. I'm cutting my card panel to a different size. It's 3⅞ by 5⅛. And I wanted to do that so that you saw just the tiniest little sliver of gold cardstock around it. I didn't want to make it overly shiny, just that tiny little smidge of gold will really help to set it off. And because I need to get my blade sorted out on my paper trimmer, I needed to trim off a little bit of those little cotton hairs there. But I'm getting this placed on here, making sure I'm happy with it, and deciding where I want to put my sentiment. Now I could flip it up or down, and I really like it down so that those quatrefoils kind of almost look like a waterfall going down to that sentiment. So I'm using my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine and the special die. And this is the great thing about this. I'm deciding if I want to use cayenne, spiced cider, or gold cardstock. So I'm just going to cut all three and decide which looks best on the front of the card. And then if I don't like the other two, I'll have those for cards later in the future. So just cutting out the die, and for this card I won't be using the shadow because I really have the perfect amount of room for that word on its own, but I really love to use a vellum layer for the shadow. So there's Special in Cayenne, and it looks nice, but I could also cut it with this remnant of gold that I have. This just goes to show you that I don't throw anything away because you can always cut something tiny out of it. So this gold cardstock, specialty cardstock, is from Spellbinders, and I really, really love it. And I really think that the gold sets everything off. It just adds that perfect touch of gold there, and the word is special. So what could be more special than a metallic gold sentiment? Now I want this to stand up from the panel. You can see here that I don't really have a lot of layers. My quatrefoil panel is flat. I am going to pop that up with some dimensional adhesive, but I want my sentiment to really stand out here. So I am cutting special a further 2 times out of just scrap white 80-pound cardstock using my Platinum 6 with my Magic Mat from scrapbook.com. I really love the way the Magic Mat works with my Spellbinders machine. It really helps to cut those die cuts really perfectly. So just using those 2 layers underneath of that gold layer will really pop this up and give it some dimension and make it look really beautiful. When you're adhering something this fine as this special word, I really think that reverse tweezers are a must. So I'm grabbing some glue from scrapbook.com and I'm just applying really tiny little dots here to this word and holding it with my reverse tweezers, and then I will adhere that over my second layer of white cardstock. So just getting that all straightened out there before I press it down. And you can also just use your fingertips. You have some wiggle room to, just press that together, move it the way that you need to move it so that it is one perfect layer. And then I'm going to add some more glue so that I can add my gold layer to the top. And I find that those 3 layers just really elevate the sentiment so beautifully. You want to make sure that you don't get any adhesive on the gold foil cardstock or any kind of foil cardstock because you will definitely see it. So special is going to fit really beautifully right here. I have a little tittle caught in between some of the layers, so make sure you don't do that when you're gluing those layers together. So special is going to look really beautiful right on this area, and then I'm going to plan what other words that I want to add for this card because this stamp set comes with quite a few different words. You could say special friend, hello special friend, it's your special day, and that's what I'm going to choose today so that I can use this to create a birthday card. The It's Your Special Day sentiment could also be used for a wedding. It could be used for a graduation, anytime where someone is having a really special day that you want to celebrate. So the great thing about not having this tape down yet is that I can kind of get everything in place where I want it to be. So special, I'm putting, right where I want it to be. And then I'm using either my tweezers or my pokey tool to add It's Your directly above. And then I can close the door on my Misty and then ink that up. And I'm going to use fig because I think I really want that to stand out. And I think with that fig border on the background, it'll look really beautiful. Now, I wondered if I should stamp up one more time. It was a great stamped image, and I'm tapping it only slightly lightly. And I think I should have only done it once because my ink pad is quite juicy because it's quite new. But that's just the way it goes. This is a handmade card. It is not Hallmark. So I'm stamping day here at the bottom. I like to do that in a bit of a diagonal there. So there is my sentiment all done. Just moving my Misty out of the way. And then I can get everything layered up. So I'm using my deluxe adhesive roller from scrapbook.com to adhere the Spellbinders Gold to the Fig A2 cardstock. And if you wanted to know those dimensions again, you'll find that in the video description below. Then I think I'm going to use a foam adhesive just to pop up that panel. It's really special. It, took time and I really want that to stand out. So I'm going to grab some foam adhesive, but first make sure that I don't have any little fuzzies on the edges of my card because those are really going to stand out on that gold cardstock. So just a reminder to me to buy some more trimmer blades. And the great thing about World Card Making Day is that there are often sales, so I might be able to pick those up today on sale. So I'm using this foam adhesive from Scrapbook Adhesives by 3L. I just opened my new roll. So it's like a new roll of dimension possibilities. So I'm really excited about it. I'm just adding 3 pieces here and getting a couple right along the bottom and the top. And you want to make sure that you don't have a saggy middle, because I've always find that if you don't add the dimensional adhesive to the center, it's going to sag there, and you definitely don't want that. So I'm just popping this up, removing all of the backing paper here with my nails. I should have probably used a blade to do that, but doing it here with my nails. And then before I put this down, because that gold cardstock, it's going to stick right away, I'm adding some liquid adhesive to make sure that I get that centered just perfectly, because that gold line around my card front is so thin. I want to make sure that it is just right. So I'm adding my special sentiment here using some more adhesive from scrapbook.com, and then I can pop that in place with my reverse tweezers. I love it, but I think I can add just a little touch more. So I'm just going to put my Crop and Create delivered card making acrylic block on there, because that's a good thing to hold that sentiment down while I look for some embellishments. What I ended up grabbing is confetti from Honeybee Stamps. And although the blend that I used here is no longer in stock, I love their confetti because it is like sequins without the holes, so you don't have to worry about your adhesive going through the holes. And I'm just picking out some of the yellowy gold ones here to put in the center of 3 of those quatrefoils. It's just going to add a little bit more bling. I already have my gold embossing powder, my gold sentiment, but I just wanted to add that little bit more of a shine to the front of my card. So one tip I have is to always place your sequins, your confetti, your pearls, whatever you're using on your card first. Take a look at it for a couple of minutes before you adhere it down. Make sure it's not too much, because I really didn't want to compete with a beautiful pattern on this card. I just wanted to add that little bit of shine here. And there you have it. You can see that shine, that sparkle there, and I am so excited about how this card turned out. I hope you guys love it as much as I do, and that you'll give patterns on your cards a try. You can take whatever kind of shape stencils and stamps you have in your collection and make patterns on your card backgrounds, and then all you have to add is a special sentiment to really create a stunning card. Thanks so much for joining me today for World Card Making Day. I'm Meghann Andrew. Be sure to follow Scrapbook and Cards Today here on YouTube, and me, Meghann Andrew, at the links in the video description. And keep joining us for more World Card Making Day fun.